Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the watercolour studio. Now today I'm going to take you on a little journey to Dungeness and we're going to paint an old railway goods wagon. So let's roll that intro, let's see how we get on. Hi guys, and a warm welcome back to the studio. Now, as I said just now, I'm going to be going down to Dungeness Point for this tutorial. Now, those of you who follow my second channel, the mobile studio, where I go off and do plein air paintings in my T4 camper, CLARABELLE, will already know what's coming to a point. But what I did, I went down there and I painted some plein air of the lighthouse at Dungeness. But I sat, or at least I set up right next to a beautiful little bit of scene, which was a boat, a house, and this very, very old railway goods wagon. I'm not quite sure how it got there, but it is there, and I felt that it was fantastic. I just couldn't pass up doing a little ink and wash of it. And that's exactly what I did for part one of that tutorial, or that video that is over on the Paul's Mobile Studio. So if you want to check that out, then pop on over there. I'll leave a link to that channel under the Show More tab underneath this video. But with all that said and done, the idea was to talk about the composition, to look at different ways that I could portray that scene. And I wanted to do that with a few thumbnails and show you a little bit of that ink and wash that I did. But I wanted to bring the whole lot back to the studio and then do a lovely tutorial for you guys this week. That was the plan, and it still is the plan. But what I wanted to do is show you my thoughts and processes. So we're going to jump back a week and I'm going to sort of show you some of that, and then we'll get on and we'll do the video or the tutorial on what I decided to do. So without further ado, let's get on, let's get into it.
So where now? Well, we haven't got too much to do, but I'm going to come in with some more orange into that dark. A little bit of red too, more orange, more red. I'm just going to come in here now and sort of put together some of the darks to suggest the end of this carriage. A little bit of light picking up in one or two places of it, but I think that's good. A lot more orange in place. I'm going to drop a little bit of orange down here. Quite like the strength of that. I'm going to use that same orange and dark on these little bits of end panels that I told you about before. Okay everybody, well this afternoon I've been doing a little ink and wash study of this scene in front of me for my mobile studio in CLARABELLE, but I felt that it would make a great tutorial for you guys on the watercolor studio. So I felt that I'd do a few sketches. Now this is just basically what's in front of me. And you know, I like this composition, really do, and it was enough to make me go ahead and do the ink and wash. But there are distinctly two areas. We've got the building at the back, and we've got this old railway carriage, and we've got this old boat. Now they do work well, and it does make a nice composition, but I'm just wondering, if I move around, can I get a better composition? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk around, do a few thumbnail sketches. Not going to film it, I'm just going to do them and show you what I've come up with, and then with that and a few photographs I can go back to the studio, and then we can do the whole painting for you to enjoy. So you'll have the backup, the ideas, the compositional ideas, and then you'll have the photographs that I've taken, and then we can see where we go from there and end up hopefully with a painting that we can all enjoy. Let's get on. Okay everybody, well I had a look around, and this is the first one that I actually did, and this is what drew me to this motif, was the angle of the boat and the old wagon and the houses. It really did look nice and still works just as good. Now it may be that I just do the wagon, because I feel that to see this old wagon in this situation, dilapidated, never to be used on track again, I think it's a real treat. And I just feel like I want to paint that as a study on its own, and that's why I did that separate little sketch there. But in fairness, and I did say I'll look out and see how it may fare as a different angle. So I walked up my left and looked back. Now the boat to me is two side on, and I don't like too much of the buildings that just don't look right. So to me that really didn't work. But in fairness, I went that way. And going back this way, I did two more sketches. This one is, the boat is end on, and it's not a bad angle, I quite like that, but this is two side on. Can't see much of anything else but the side panel. And to me, it doesn't look well, it doesn't look good. The house is totally insignificant in the background, so I didn't really like this study at all. However, this one, well, this is not bad. If I was just going to do the boat on its own, maybe I might look at this as a motif, because it's a nice size, nice angle on the boat, and you've got the beach view behind it with more boats sitting up on the shingle bank. But this doesn't work at all. The house doesn't work, and this is still two side on. So to be fair, I've come back to the original one that I liked. I really did like that, and I still think it works. And it may be that we do the painting for this week's tutorial on that, or indeed I really do fancy just doing that wagon. I think it's tremendous. There's a lovely sort of tree at the end, the tamarisk, that's what it's called. There's a lovely tamarisk tree behind it. There's some red hot pokers actually there, I mustn't forget those. But I like the angle of this and there, and I do like the fact that it's a very, very old British loco wagon, goods wagon, that's no longer on its wheels. I'm guessing, I haven't had a close look, it's on somebody's property. But it's just rusting away there, but it's so beautiful to see. So I might even make that the subject of this week's watercolor studio tutorial for you when I get to it. But anyway, enough of all that. I'm going to take these sketches home. I've got the photographs, and we'll go back, we'll discuss it again in the studio, and hopefully we can make a lovely painting for you to enjoy. So catch it all back in the studio very shortly.
Hi guys, welcome back. Well, I've just shared with you some of the thumbnails and a little bit of footage and some thoughts and ideas based on my trip last week down to Dungeness in CLARABELLE when I was doing some plein air. Now, the idea was to bring all that information back to the studio and then do a painting tutorial that you can enjoy and get from. But you see the whole process from the idea, the thumbnails, all the way through to the final studio painting if you were not staying out there and doing a plein air version. So that's what this is all about. Now, what did I decide to do? Because my ideas have changed since last week. I've got to be honest with you. I looked at all the reference when I got home, and I really loved the whole motif, the boat, the house, and the old wagon. But I really didn't want to make it that complex, that complicated. It's sort of like three elements, and they really, as much as I loved it, they didn't quite fit. So I decided just to do the wagon. Now, the thing is that many of you who know me well will know that my passion outside of painting, everything art related, my escape from painting sometimes is that of model railways and also the sort of construction of realistic scenery. I love all of that aspect, and to a point those dioramas and the weathering on the trains sort of lend themselves to artistic abilities anyway, and much of what I know as an artist sort of transcends that divide. But so for me it was a no-brainer. I just really wanted to do this railway wagon. Now, it's not out of place in all fairness on Dungeness, because back in the day many of the residents, I don't know how they came by them, whether they were purchased or they were sort of taken from those that may have been dumped by the railway, but they sort of turned railway carriages into their homes, extended them, but essentially built around an old railway carriage. So this wagon being where it is not completely out of context. But for me to see it there, rusting and all those elements, it was just a real treat. So I felt that I wanted to change the whole idea of what I was going to do and make the video tutorial today an ink and wash, but also centered around this railway goods wagon. So what I've done is you'll see the picture and you'll see how I've designed the idea. And yeah, I've left the rest of it out. I didn't think the painting really needed all of those different elements. Simplification is often the best way. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. I'm not sure where I want to start, so let's just make a few fundamental marks. And I'm not measuring anything, I'm just putting a little mark here and running my hand along and maybe to about there, maybe just over halfway, something like that. And that could be construed as the part of the roof there of my wagon. And then I'm going to come over and sort of formulate. Now I'm checking this as well, because if you put your pencil line up on the line, that there comes a little lower, believe it or not. I didn't think it was, but it's a little shallower as well. So I'm just going to go like that, just eye friendly. Try and get that down like that. So there's my edge of the roof of this wagon, and I'm going to take that line down, and it is almost but not quite horizontal. It just dives down ever so slightly, then it comes down to the curvature at the end there. So you got something like that really, and any corrections you can do this when you come to ink it up. Now I'm just checking this, because this mark here is really quite important, because if I don't have this right, it's going to affect all these lines. So I've got to make sure this is where I want it to be before I commit. And there's that little recess there, and we come down here, got another recess, but you don't quite see that recess here. You've got the corner almost underneath. Paint what you see, not what you think you see. And I am the world's worst sometimes when it comes to that. Just look at it and check it. Now, really and truly, you could start measuring as well. I'm just going to take the end of this. I'm going to take that end there on the photo, and I'm going to walk it into there and see how many of those pencil marks really go into the 1, 2, just over 2. So is this too narrow? 1, 2. Yes, it is. I think this needs to be a little wider. So I'm going to bring that out a little further. Just a few adjustments now will save you a lot of pain further in. Okay, so let's just take that down. Let's just redo that. I know it's just over 2. 1, 2. I think we're a much better position. I'm going to take that down there like that, all the way down. It's quite a long piece of body, but probably about there, I want to say. And that's where the top of the grasses are. But it sort of comes down a little bit lower there, a little bit of a dark area there. Now, this needs to be about the right curve. So Okay, so before we go on with the inking part of this tutorial, let's take a couple of seconds to look at maybe an alternative to doing this drawing. Now, the reason I did this was in response to many people saying that they didn't have the confidence maybe to go straight in on the drawing with some ink, and they just wanted to have a little bit of a safety net. And so by doing a pencil drawing first, you gain the confidence, you get all the problems associated with the shape, the form, perspective, all these things are out the way, and then you're ready to go in with the ink with confidence, because you're really just going over lines you've now created. You've gone through that pain part, and so the inking side is so much more fun. And I get that a lot, because you know, if you are under pressure doing the inking as well, you can make mistakes that maybe you wouldn't have done. So by having this drawing there, the inking part is a lot more fun. Now, you may not want all of this pencil graphite on your watercolor paper. So one way you can tackle that is maybe to take a piece of cartridge paper the same size, do your drawing, and then take a trace from that cartridge paper drawing, and transfer it to your nice piece of watercolor. And that way you don't have tons of lines, indents, what have you. You have a simple outline, and then you can carry on with the inking process. And another top tip based on that is that if you've done your drawing, you've got a great drawing, then you've got something separate. Then you've got a copy, you've got the trace that you've put on here. But if this goes wrong for some unknown reason, maybe at the inking stage, or maybe indeed with the watercolor stage, you do have a drawing that is still there, you have a trace that is still there, and that can be re-employed on a new piece of paper, so you don't have to keep going through the pain barrier of redrawing. It's done. All the hard work's done, and now we are confident to get on with the ink. So let's get going. All right, so the color I'm using is black instead of brown or any other color, so we're using black. It is waterproof ink, and it is from Dungeness. Now, in England, you get that from a company called Pure Pens, and they're a lovely company to deal with, and very responsive and very quick to deliver. So I would do that. The pens that I'm using are a lame pen. These aren't that expensive, but you do have to remember when you order one to designate the size nib you want, which is extra fine, fine, medium, or bold, and you have to buy the little siphon on top of the pen to put inside there, which takes up where the supplied ink cartridge comes from. I don't think can buy waterproof ink in a cartridge, so you do have to buy this refillable siphon and a bottle of Dungeness document ink that you can employ inside it. Now, I've got two nibs here, and these are a bold and an extra fine. I've just got to check which one it is that I've got. I think the evidence is in the end of the nib. There is a very subtle difference between the two, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put the lid back on one to start with. Let's just do that, don't want it drying out on me. And so I'm going to use the fine nib to begin with, and that's going to do all my line work here. Then I'm going to do the watercolor, and then if I feel that I need to make some of these lines more important, which gives me a sense of perspective, then I can come back with the bolder ink size and emphasize some of those marks. So here goes, let's get on. Just a little bit less formal and a little bit more spontaneous. Okay, I can come down there with that roof that's somewhere there. Take that line through. Oh, I went way off there. There we go. Not a problem. Let's just come through here with the roof again. My lines are anything but straight. You can see that, and I make no apology for the fact that they're not, because I'm not interested in having absolute straight lines. I'm just having fun with the drawing, and it sort of morphs organically, and you know, they're random lines. Well, they're not. No, that's wrong. They're not random lines. But they are wiggly lines. They are not straight lines, but they give the drawing character. And that's what I'm trying to convey, the character of the drawing, not necessarily every line absolutely precision in place and straight as a die. Even if you put a straight edge to the actual wagon, you probably wouldn't find many straight lines. So that's my excuse anyway. Right, going to carry on with this now. There is quite that strong line down through there, and we've got various other little marks in here. Moving in the wind, and it was a windy day, gotta say. If you saw my video on my mobile studio channel on YouTube, and I do suggest that if you haven't seen it, that you go over there, check out those videos and subscribe to the channel. That will help it grow, as well as subscribing to this channel. That will help it grow too. But yes, you will notice how windy this little excursion was to Dungeness. Well, what I'm going to do here is just suggest a little bit of rough edge to what could be a bit of the road. We can bring some of that in if we want to, or we can leave it out as we feel we want to. It doesn't matter. It's your painting. You're doing this. You're having fun with this. And while I'm on that subject, I will put the reference to this up over on my Patreon. You don't have to be a Patreon member to do it. Download it and use it. Please pop on over there, and if you feel so inclined, have a look around. You may want to become a patron. That would be fantastic as well. There are some lovely couple of tiers, $5 and $10, and they give you 1 and 2 brand new videos each month. So it might be worth getting involved with that if you want to, but neither is essential, because you can just download this reference and have a go at this yourself as an ink and wash, and I fully encourage you to do that. And what I would also say is that over on my other site, if you go, I'll put a link to it, but on my site there is a link to a new and growing community of like-minded people on my channel that are, it's a community, it's free, it doesn't cost you anything, but it is accessible anytime you want to, and you have access to each other and to me as well. So I'll put links to that under the details, and if you want to get involved with that, I'd love to have you on board. And you just start to swirl the numbers and yeah, start posting, asking questions, all those things that people want to know about. Right, I'm just going to come in here, I'm just going to put a little hatch mark down through there. And take a little 5-minute relax and then start thinking about putting the colour into this. There we go. Haha, done. All right. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there with the inking up. I may come back with that bolder colour, that bolder nib later on to emphasize 1 or 2 shapes. But whilst this is drying, I'm going to erase any graphite that may still be on the paper, and then we're going to get into the colour. Just gently going over the area to make sure that there are no extra lines anywhere. Take the graphite out of it. Okay everybody, well, the ink is dry, I've cleaned off the paper, and I've got fresh water, I've got my colours organised, and the whirls are cleaned out, and I've misted them and started to activate the paint. The brushes I'm using this week are all from Rosemary & Company, and they're all the Red Dot series. First and foremost, mix up enough colour. Get some water on your palette, get it going, get some lovely cobalt blue. Mine's a little grubby, it's got another mix in there. Now I'm going to do this one time, I'm not going to keep working it. Bring that down there a little bit, touches there. And let that come down and be much paler as that comes down towards the horizon line. Take it around that shape there. So the sky is done, finished. One take, enough. Let that dry before we come back in and do any more in this area. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to leave that roof because that will affect the sky if I touch it. But what I will do is I'm going to come in with a bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of raw sienna. I'm just going to run that through here. Literally, there's the first colour in there as well of our wagon. And while we're at it, let's come in here and we may as well just go in with the same values, a little bit of light red, a little bit of Indian red to cool it down, and bring that colour through here. All right, so let's come back in with this more aggressive, fresher green. I'm going to come in here. Again, we've got those little poker plants that I just put in there, coming down around here, up into this area here. lots of little taps of colour, bringing it down. We're going to come in with some lighter values in there. I'm going to bring that all the way through the front here, coming in with maybe some of these darker greens. But when we put the dark values in to these, then hopefully they won't appear as a dark green so much. They will appear as a slightly fresher green, because we're going to put some dark accents into these areas here. And once this is dry, we can come over even heavier with other marks and lighter marks in other places, because this will all dry lighter than I'm putting it on. Paint always appears dark when you have it wet, and it will dry substantially lighter by the end of the process. So just be mindful of that. So where to now? Well, we're going to do a very similar look along on the front of this. So let's come back in with some Indian red. Now I'm mixing it into some of that green. There's not enough of that green to worry about, so don't fret over that. A little bit of English red into that. Just want to bring in some variants here, just to suggest all the beautiful different colours that are in the timber and the rusting metalwork on this wagon. Now it's going to be strong on the orange on there. Let's bring that down. So what we made is pretty much a dull, grungy, cool, dark colour. And I want to bring that in over the underside of this roof as we go around here, giving us that nice bit of dark there. And then I got to try and be a little careful how I use it, because too much and it's just going to become a very big dark shape. A little bit more blue from cobalt. I'll bring that into there. Some darker greens, going to make quite a bit of it up. A little bit of red in there, it's way too red as you can see. Let's come back, a bit more water, a bit more green in there. Just make that sort of really dark, green colour that we can utilise. Okay, let's put that down, clean that out. Let's come in with some aureolin, using the rest of that red up, not a problem. And I'm going to bring in some of that green too, some viridian. So we've got another green mixed up, just different greens for different parts of this job. I'm going to use some of that lovely cobalt teal and a little bit of aureolin into that. It makes a very extremely bright green, but we may use that, we may not. Put the brush down to one side. Let's start having a bit of fun with some of these other textures in here. Now I do need to come in with that dark, because this sort of tamarisk plant is not going to work if it's not got this darker value inside it. And I've got to be careful, because I've got my lovely little red hot poker plants in there. I need to isolate those. And we're coming to the conclusion of this painting very soon. Once it's dry, I will look at adding some extra dark lines, some thicker lines, to give a little bit of perspective. And that's the nice thing about ink. When you are drawing with ink, it's very hard to get perspective other than known perspective. But to suggest perspective in line, then you tend to thicken the line on the foreground aspects that are becoming much more important, and you leave the ones that are further away from you as thinner lines, less significant lines. Okay, I've just dried this off ready. Now, it's worth noting that if you've got wet paper, damp paper, the ink is really not going to go on it very, very well, and it could actually clog up your pen, and it could certainly damage the surface of your paper. So really make sure this is dried off nicely before you carry on. Now, what I wanted to do here is just come in with a few of these dark areas with the thicker ink, and that will just help me sort of create some perspective onto some of this. You can see how much stronger this ink, well, not stronger, sort more deliberate this degree is. And bring down the dark in here as well to suggest the shadow areas and under here. So shadowy areas under there. So that's pretty much sorted out. I was going to put some more stuff in here. I don't think I need to. I'm just going to leave it alone now. So what I'm going to do is quite simply sign it and call it a day. And there you go, one signature. Sorted. Okay guys, I think that's enough done, and I hope you enjoyed the process of me doing an ink and wash on this beautiful old railway goods wagon on Dungeness Beach. As I say, I had a lot of fun doing it, and I know it wasn't a quick video, but if you're going to do it properly, then you've got to do it properly, haven't you? It takes as long as it takes, but I had a lot of fun with this, as I say, and I'm sure you got something from the process. Now, if you enjoyed this one, then please put a like to the video and share it with your friends. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help it grow. And if you want a little bit more, then pop on over to the sister channel, my Paul's Mobile Studio, where I go out and do plein air, and you see some of the stuff that I do there from CLARABELLE, and that is also well worth subscribing to, and that will help that channel grow too. And don't forget the Patreon. There's a lot on there to offer you if you want to get involved. I'd love to see you there as my latest patron. There is, of course, my Sky course. If you want to nip onto that and look at that, it's only £67. Take a look at it and get involved with that. I'd love to help you out on that Sky course, Skies in watercolours. So look out for that one and check the link below. In the meantime, I'm going to get ready to do another video, and I will see what I'm going to do. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but we're going to go out in CLARABELLE, go somewhere else, and then we can see what I will do for you then. In the meantime, take care wherever you are, stay safe, enjoy your painting. Catch you all on the next one. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.